So hello and welcome back to Into the Cina-Verse, and today we're going to review Avatar: The Way of Water.
After waiting 13 years after the first Avatar came out, we finally got the second Avatar. In this film we see Jake Sully living with the Na'vi, and after watching Avatar: The Way of Water, we found that it was a huge disappointment. One of the great things about Avatar 1 and even in this film is the great visual effects, and James Cameron did not disappoint in that area. One huge disappointment that was a letdown in this film was the storytelling. It was bland, it did not flow, and it was excessive.
I would say that the overall purpose of The Way of Water was, just like its predecessor, the first Avatar film, to explore the world of Pandora and the Na'vi through the use of beautiful visual effects. It did not disappoint. James Cameron in that department did not disappoint. But the story lacked substance, It was very simple. Now, I don't want to say that having a simple plot is bad. Not at all. I like having a simple plot in a film. But if you're going to have a simple plot, just like the Avatar film, the first one, don't use excessive visual effects. If you use excessive visual effects, then in my opinion, that's going to take away substance and attention from the plot, from the audience point of view. So it made the story very, in a way, difficult to follow because you're giving all this extra time to the visual effects. You're not letting the audience sink in the plot, and you're giving the film a very excessive runtime.
Yeah.
So now we're going to move on to what we thought were the most important bits of the film and discuss them in short. I think the first major event of the film was when, at the very beginning, where we find out that Jake Sully has not only become the leader of the Na'vi, but has also become a father. So as I said, immediately into the beginning of the film, we witness Jake becoming a father to 4 kids, one of them being his adoptive daughter, and in a way also being a sort of adoptive father to Spider. We see him, he tries to balance the role of father and leader, but they don't go specifically into this.
No.
They don't really dive into this dual roleship that we see him have later on in the film.
And I feel that's a big problem that I had in the beginning, that it was very rushed and we don't... he did not develop that part of the story too much.
He puts 13 years in 10 minutes?
Exactly.
Which no. I was going to say that it felt very rushed. I would have preferred to have a sequel focused on the events straight after the first Avatar film.
Yeah.
So we would have seen Jake take on the full mantle of leader of the Na'vi and him living up to that role. And then eventually throughout the film, he becomes a father and he tries to deal with this dual role of being leader to the Na'vi and father and father to his kids and wife to Nate and husband to Neytiri.
Yeah.
So I would have preferred to see a sequel as well, more focused on, like, for example, the politics in the Na'vi tribe. He has to balance the role of leader and father, and he has to figure out how to be this kind of political figure within the Na'vi tribe.
Yeah.
Because immediately they went on to, let's get the Sky People back as the main villain. It was very repetitive. I would have preferred that. I don't know if anyone else would have preferred that, but I think, we have to see him in a different environment, kind of.
Yeah.
In a different story, don't always keep the same story.
Yeah.
In this part, we see, like, one of the major themes of family really coming to life in this film, and a theme that we will explore later on as well. So the next major event is when the Sky People invade and Jake and his family have to escape from their home. And this is where the theme of protection comes in. Jake, being the good leader that he is, he wants to protect his tribe. But more importantly to him, he's a good father. He wants to protect his family. All right. So for him, there's not much of a difference between father and leader. Both of the roles he has to protect. He has to protect his tribe, he has to protect his family. And the only way for this is to leave the forest. The action that, the Sky People invade and they're burning the forest again and they go to war. It's repetitive from the first film. You know, again, it was rushed. In my opinion, it was rushed. We just saw it in the first film, and we're seeing it again in the first, 15 minutes, 20 minutes of the second film. It was repetitive. What I really liked about when the Sky People invade again, that we find out that Spider is actually the son of the Colonel. It was an interesting twist. I liked it.
It was unexpected.
It was unexpected. He wasn't given enough time on screen. Like, the time he was given was a little bit forced. Like, even when he was abducted by the Colonel, and he was like forced to teach them the ways of the Na'vi.
Yeah.
Like, he had no choice because he was being tortured. But at the same time, there was like bonding moment between him and his dad, which I think it was very forced. In one scene, he hates his dad. In another scene, he's trying to bond with him. Again, it was rushed. As a story on the whole, not all of it, but in certain scenes, it was rushed. And with this character specifically, again, he was thrown in there. Again, I liked this character. I'm not against the point that they introduced a character like Spider.
Yeah.
Because he can bring a certain conflict to the film. But again, don't rush his character, don't rush his growth. Again, this is where we see the difference, where they put all of the, I don't want to say effort, but all of the attention on the visual effects and not on character growth and development. In this case, Spider.
So after the Sky People came in, we see Sully and his family move to the Water Tribe.
Water Tribe.
Comparable with the first film, Jake and his family had to learn new ways of the Na'vi, but water edition. The problem I have with this is that we don't learn anything about this place that much, or about these type of Na'vi. This is a huge part of the film that it kept on going until the next event, which is the battle scene that we see. I felt it didn't have too much to offer. Throughout this battle, we see that the Colonel uses the children as leverage for Jake Sully to go in alone and sort of trade himself with the children. But obviously by the end, he doesn't do that, and he goes like rogue and tries to save his children in a different way. Here we see the theme of family and protection again, where Sully tries to save and protect his family and even the new Na'vi tribe from the Sky People. Though I found this very interesting, where usually the parents save the children, but in this case, it's the opposite. The children save the parents. And it's very interesting. One of the, I think, most interesting part of this is Spider. Spider's dad now is like underwater, drowning and can't get out. But he sees that and said, instead of like, since he's a bad person, I'm still going to save him. However, even though he saves him, he doesn't stay with him. He leaves and go back with his real family, which is the Na'vi.
When you have a film like Avatar and you're going to produce certain scenery, landscapes, creatures, characters, yes, use visual effects, use CGI, but don't take away attention from the story. I think Avatar, the first one, and more specifically this one, it's a perfect example when big budget movies, they give more attention to the use of visual effects than to any story or character development. Or like, for example, even if we take in the character of Jake Sully, even his transition from human to Na'vi felt rushed.
On the first one.
In the first one and in this one.
They could have tried to continue what happened after that, like what other processes that he had to go through.
Exactly. He trained, yes. And he found it difficult because of the language and because of the culture. Yeah, okay, we see in the first one that he does struggle a little bit. But when he goes back as an Na'vi, it's like it's natural for him.
First nature.
Exactly. Yeah. Just because a film, right, goes beyond the $1 billion mark in the box office doesn't mean it's a good film.
And unfortunately, that's what blockbuster films are now.
Exactly.
Like, which is very unfortunate.
That $1 billion mark, for me, it's representing the expectation of what the people wanted. After 13 years, people waited 13 years to go watch this film. Obviously, they're going to go watch it in the theaters.
Yeah, of course.
Then obviously those
Especially Avatar.
amounts of people, right? They're going to pay the money. The $1 billion mark is going to get reached,
Of course.
right? But it doesn't mean that it's a good film. If the purpose of the film was, okay, to produce great visuals and to awe the audience, especially in the theater, then I would say yes, in a way they're succeeding. But if they're trying to build a universe and characters through the use of storytelling, which I don't think they are,
No.
I think
not.
they're failing and failing miserably. There's no character development, there's no story development.
Even there's
Nothing.
barely any history. Even in the first one, I noticed there's barely any history.
Nothing.
There are new characters and new creatures that we get introduced, but there are still like a lot of questions that went unanswered. For example, Kir's conception, Kir's connection to nature, and Spider's origin. Where did Spider come from? How did he come to life? That's something that would have been really great throughout the film, rather than just having landscape shots. Yeah, so there is great visual effects. The film is basically like eye candy. It's for people who really like scenery, nature, a cinematic experience.
Use that cinematic experience to your advantage.
Basically, yeah. But if you are looking for something for a story, you're not going to find it here. It's not that where you say, listen, I can have a universe with different type of species, different type of stories, history, and origins, and how did the humans get connected with them, and all this. You're not going to find this here. So it's a very hollow world, I would say.
It's a massive world, but we don't know anything about it.
That's basically it. Look at Harry Potter, look at Lord of the Rings, Star Wars. They have so much, like it's a huge world where you get to know about the history, the characters they develop. If Avatar, the future Avatar films, is going to be like The Way of Water, unfortunately, it's not going to hold for long. I think it will die out, and most probably the future films will get cancelled.
If they don't pay attention to the storytelling and to make sure that, listen, everything makes sense, they're just going to become a cheap franchise.
Yeah.
And when I say cheap, I'm not referring to money. Cheap as in source material.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything. I'll compare it to another franchise, which in my opinion is cheap. I really enjoyed in the beginning, but now I'm dreading. Fast and the Furious.
Oh, yeah.
That's another example of a cheap franchise. Okay, it's gone on for too long. I was going to say it's just there to entertain. All films are done to entertain.
But
what the difference is that if you're going to make a proper film, emphasize on story. That's what you need, not just stunts and visual effects. For me, that's cheap. You're going to buy a lot of people with just stunts and visual effects, but you're going to criticize a lot, and eventually you're going to die out. It's a very interesting concept.
Yes.
Just the point is, put more emphasis on story. That's the point. James Cameron, come on.
I've never actually hit anybody with a chair, and I've always wanted to. All right?
After you, sir.
Here we go.
Tell us your opinions in the comment section.
What do you think about the film, and what do you think about how future films are going to be?
Exactly.
And we see you in next video. Like, comment
and subscribe.